Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for the evening, Javier Wilson, and I want to welcome you to the hottest new show in the world. You dig what I'm saying? The Ceremony, where we celebrate the journey of life rather than dwelling on the destination. Now, today we have a guest whose work has impacted psychology, academia, and cultural research in a profound way. If you were to build a Mount Rushmore of black psychologists making an impact in both academia and the real world, this man would have his face carved in stone. You dig what I'm saying? He's a proud Clark Atlanta alum. He's spent decades pioneering research in cultural relevant therapy and forensic psychology. He served as a clinical director at a residential facility working with police departments nationwide, and his resume reads like a roadmap for what it means to blend research with real life, real world action. He is the dean. I'm telling y'all, this is exclusive. You know what I'm saying? He's the dean of the School of Arts and Science at Clark Atlanta University. He's a respected professor, a clinical psychologist, and a man dedicated to elevating black mental health. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Christopher Bass.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? Now, listen, this is not just a regular guest. He's not just out of all those things I told y'all of who he is. He's all of those things, but he's also my mentor. He's my pops. I call him father. This is the only thing I know that I call father. And other than that, he's just he's a great community leader. You know what I'm saying? So here at the ceremony, we want to first of all say thank you for even being here. We want to honor you. We want to celebrate you. You know what I'm saying? I feel like here in the world, a lot of people don't have the opportunity to be celebrated. Everybody think that you have to be a celebrity to be celebrated.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I just want to say thank you. And today we're going to celebrate you in your journey of life.
Thank you. Well, that makes me a celebrity because the root word of celebrity is celebrate. Yeah. So if you're celebrating me, then I am a celebrity. Yeah. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So listen, now we just gonna go ahead and jump into, you know what I'm saying, the journey of your life. You grew up in Washington, D.C. during the 1980s, right?
Yep.
It's a pivotal time that lasted scars on the whole black community, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say that environment was like, and how did it shape your mindset?
Okay. So you got to put things in context. In the 1960s, before I was born, there was the civil rights movement and the civil rights era, where we became sort of cohesed. We gelled together. There was some cohesion in the black community. So we get past the 60s, we get into the 70s. There's a lot of free love going on. There's a lot of substances being tried in the communities. But then we get into the 80s, and then we had the crack epidemic.
Yeah.
Now, the crack epidemic completely changed the game. It changed the game for the fact that cocaine in that particular form was highly addictive. So that made it really, really, really quick to get addicted to this substance. The second piece on that is that they changed the laws so that they began to arrest young brothers and young sisters for, distributing the drugs. We had some president back then called Ronald Reagan, and he introduced a concept called Reaganomics. And Reaganomics was devastating to the black community. Devastating. So if you can imagine going from a cohesive community or cohesive communities around the country to now being arrested and then being addicted and seeing how the drug can change how we communicate with each other. Now I'm beginning to fear my brother. I'm beginning to fear my sister. My community is now changing to a place that I don't even recognize. Yeah. So growing up in DC, at that point it was called Chocolate City.
Okay.
And Chocolate City was, again, a place of love, community, communion. But again, when the drugs took over, it became a very dangerous and cold place. Yeah. And what I saw was the black community and black families begin to start to separate from themselves, from the tight units that they once were. Yeah. And that wasn't just DC, that was not just my experience. You can go to any major city in America during that time, and you started to see the same thing. So black communities were being pulled apart.
Yeah. So talk about like throughout your experience being like around the crack epidemic and all those things, like what's a specific time that you can remember in your life that inspired you to even say like, I want to take upon psychology, like, you know what I'm saying? Like being a therapist and being in all of these different forms of psychology that you've been a part of. Like what's a specific moment in your life throughout your childhood, being around all these things that influenced you to even like dive into something like that?
Great question. You know, I never knew anything about psychology growing up, but when I got to middle school, I started to notice that, you know, talking to people to stop them from using drugs wasn't effective. You know, trying to remove the drugs and not have it delivered to certain people in the community and the family were not being effective.
Yeah.
So a teacher introduced me to this idea called psychology.
Yeah.
And according, I heard that, you know, psychology was a way to change people's minds without actually taking something from them. You can actually hypnotize them, if you will. You can actually get into their brains and say certain things to make them act different ways. So I said, you know what, let me study this thing. Let me get into the science. And if I can master it, then not only can I change my family dynamic, but I could change my community. So that's what I got into psychology to do, to change the community for the better.
Now, how would you say even being in psychology and taking that step of being in such a like a niche department, you know what I'm saying, a niche job, what would you say, like, how did that influence like your life? Like, you know, usually when you're in psychology, you're a therapist and stuff like that, your job is to like cater to the people, cater to your clients and stuff like that. But how did that start? How did you see that whole, how did you see yourself getting to that, start shifting like the form of your life as well?
That's a good question. Well, I've always been a helper. You know, my birthday is in July, so I'm a Cancer. So as a Cancer, you know, I love people. I love emotion. I love connections. So if I could help somebody along the way, then that's what I wanted to do. You know, so psychology just sort of fell in my lap. And like I said, I didn't know anything about it. But once I got into it, I started to love it because I realized that the mind is the most powerful thing. And if you can get people to see themselves differently, their situations differently, and other people differently, oh my gosh. You can create a tidal wave that, you know, transcends not only their lives, but their children's lives, their community's lives. And, you know, before you know it, man, you talk to one person, it's like a ripple effect. You touch 10, 15 people. And then there's this thing called the 6 degrees of separation, right? So that means if I know you, you know somebody else, who knows somebody else, who knows somebody else. I'm connected to all of those people just because I know you. And the same way on my line. So if I impact you, all of those 6 people that you know could possibly be affected by just you and I talking. So I love that. I love the idea of helping people who I don't even know, who I may not even talk to ever in my life. And it transformed my life as I continue to get all of these degrees and all of these experiences. And, you know, what I've learned is that while psychology is stigmatized, meaning that we really don't like to talk about it in the Black community, that is probably one of our biggest issues. We don't talk about things that can actually help us to grow. You know, if we begin to understand that psychology or psychological disorders are not just white things, but it impacts the Black community in the same way, if not more, because of our significant historical trauma, we could actually change everything. We can change. We are such a powerful people, man. And if we just tap in, come on now, we just tap into our greatness and our brilliance and not have to deal with all of the, you know, the racism and oppression, and
especially in this time.
Especially in this time.
So like, I love everything that you're saying, but I know like the journey of even like I know it's harder. It's harder said. It's harder said than done. You know what I'm saying? Well, it's easier said than done.
It's easier said.
You know what I'm saying? So my question to you is like, were you like practicing the things that you're saying right now? Like, how did you, because I know even Black people, like even going through things and trying to believe in yourself, or even like not even just believe in yourself, but try to like understand our own greatness, even like understanding like the greatness of the people that came before us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how did you truly like dive deep into like understanding your own greatness? Like, what made you start to understand, like, hold on, like, this is my calling, and understanding like this is something that God has put me on earth to do?
You know, that's a great question, and here's the way I'm going to answer it. You know, in life, what we do is we look at ourselves through our own eyes and our own lenses. But what made me really tap in was seeing myself in different people. So the more people who I talked to, the more I saw different versions of myself.
Yeah.
So if I'm talking to 100 people, I'm looking at 100 different ways that my image is reflected back to me.
Yeah.
So if you begin to look at yourself through the relationships of other people, through the connections of other people, then you start to see yourself in different ways. And it's like, wow, I'm multifaceted. I'm brilliant. I'm incredible.
Yeah.
You know, I'm young. I don't have a beard right now.
Yeah.
You know, I got hair again. You know, so I'm seeing myself in you. I'm seeing myself in the other people who are in the space.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And you don't lose touch with who you are. It just takes you beyond what you know yourself to be.
Yeah. So listen.
Go.
Let's go into your time at Clark Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? We talked about the degrees and all of the amazing accomplishments that you have. But you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna send you at Clark Atlanta right now.
Yes,
about to graduate. By the grace of God, about to be a graduate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you're an alum.
Yes,
Not
sir.
even just a regular alum, but you're a part of I believe, the first class.
Absolutely.
Of Clark Atlanta University when the schools consolidated, came together, right?
Yep.
So talk about, like, you know, Clark Atlanta is known for cultivating greatness. Like, that's what the whole university is about. So how did your time at CAU influence your ambitions and your career?
Wow. To your point, I got there, or my twin brother and I arrived at Clark Atlanta University in 1988. So we arrived in August, and it consolidated in July.
Yeah.
So it was just the informing into Clark Atlanta University. And, you know, you still had the separation of Clark College and, you know, the undergrads, and then Atlanta University, the grads. So it was just a slow merging. But you could see something great, you know, being born.
Yeah.
You could see something really forming that could be possibly great. And, you know, Clark Atlanta University in the 80s or late 80s and early 90s, it was a mecca.
Yeah.
Because you had the Atlanta University Center, of course, and you always had people coming in through what you all now call the promenade. You know, that during my time, it was a street that you can drive up and down from Spelman all the way back down to Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
You know, it was a street that people, you know, drove up and down on. So, but it was nothing to see famous people standing and talking and doing interviews and holding court. You talk about philosophers, you know, of the day, Bobby Wright, for example. You know, you had people who would come, Tupac would come, you know, you had people like that who would just come and just talk and just be on campus. And you walk out of a classroom, you could see an intellectual debate going on, you know, about, you know, apartheid, you know, which was really big back then. And then you jump in and now you walk away learning more outside the classroom than you learned inside the classroom. So it was a brilliant, beautiful, powerful experience that I had at Clark Atlanta University. I graduated in 1992. And like you said, I was the first class, or among the first mighty class of Clark Atlanta University. And if I think about all of the students, the majority of us went on to do amazing things. You know, I mean, in today's time, because of economics and so forth, you know, you all, I've heard someone say, look to your left and look to your right. You may not see that person graduating, and, you know, the graduation rate is so low now. But I'm going to tell you, the majority of the people who I graduated with, who I sat next to, they're out here running it. They're out here doing it. I'm talking about, you know, doctors, lawyers, teachers, you name it. They're doing it. And I'm proud of that. So like I said before, I can look at all of those experiences and see myself in their greatness. And they can see themselves in my greatness.
So when people usually see like successful people, or people see people to like even your stature and stuff like that, they would think that like, oh, he ain't never been through nothing.
Oh my gosh.
He ain't never like had like, you know what I'm saying? People would think that you're a whole like the way you speak, or like even the stuff that you're saying out with the intelligence and the poise that you have. People wouldn't know of the things that you went through throughout your matriculation at Clark, and even like your matriculation of life.
Right.
Now, you know, with me being like, you know, close to you, it's this certain story of your time at Clark Atlanta University. Now, you don't gotta go into the whole deep of it.
Okay.
But I feel like people need to know it because they need to know like you can like. It's all of us have a story. All of us go through some of the same exact experiences. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's one of the things I look up to you like the most, because you have all these different stories and all these different experiences that like looking from afar, I would think that you're Superman.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? But like when we get close and we can like listen to each other's story, we understand that like you're actually just human, just as I am.
Absolutely.
But you just have like that was just the course of your life, the journey of life. You know what I'm saying? So you I think you already know what story I'm talking about.
We're not going to tell that story.
Okay.
We're going to hold off on that one.
Okay.
Because we on film.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
But I'm open for anything else.
All right. So listen, you worked in clinical settings. You worked in academia institutions.
Yep.
You worked even with law enforcement.
Yep.
Looking back on your journey, what would you say was the most difficult professional setback that you faced, and how did you overcome it?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you some good and I'm gonna tell you some challenging. Okay, because you said a real person. So I'm gonna be very, very transparent. I have been awarded the Professor of the Year at Clark Atlanta University for 15 years in a row. And it was back to back to back. So there's not been anybody who has been, you know, awarded more things than me on that campus. There's a house on Parsons that's named after me. The Hill Restaurant, if you look on their building, it still has this homage to me. You know, Christopher K. Bass right there. But as much as I've been awarded and lauded and applauded, I've also been the most fired person at Clark Atlanta University's history.
Wow.
I've been fired 4 times from this institution in the last 20 years.
Okay.
So
yeah, I would never know that. I didn't even know. Okay.
As great as people say that I am, and as wonderful as people say that I am, and as, you know, celebrated as I am, there are also people who don't like me and what I do and what I mean for the students, because I give everything to the students. I pour my life out for the students. And if I can stand up for a student and that would cost me my job, I did what I needed to do. As long as we're doing things in order. So I'm never going to do anything to disrespect myself or disrespect a student. However, I have been let go for standing up for certain things. You know, tuition hikes and increases. You know, back in the day, now we're gonna put this on camera, and you know, you say real person. Back in the day, you know, there was a board of trustees meeting that we interrupted. You know, and we held a protest because they were raising tuition. Now, I didn't do that as a student. I did that as a faculty member. So now, if we believe that students' tuition pay for our salaries, which is a common misconception, but if we believe that, here I am stopping students from going to class, and me and the students are going to stop the Board of Trustees meeting from happening because we want to show them that we're not standing for it. I'm ringing, here we go. I'm ringing, you know, fire alarms in Carl and Mary Ware. I'm getting people out the buildings. I'm causing a scene, you know? And because of things like that, I become the Superman in some people's minds. But really all I am is human. I'm a cancer. I'm somebody who loves and who gives and who supports and who nourishes. That's just who I am. You call me Pops, but I'm a dad. You know, so with both of us knowing the state of the world and how like so many people in the world don't love like that. You know what I'm saying? Like like, you know my story, I've lost my mom and stuff like that, and I think that's why like I love and care about you so much, because like you came into my life and you showed me like a love that was emulative, like the love that she was able to share with me. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of people don't come across, a lot of people don't even have the capacity within themselves to even be able to like give off that type of love, or even show or experience that type of love. So like, what would you say is like your number one thing that allows you to continue to show that thing, like that, even with you having the job, being fired and everything on the line? Like,
it's not that many types of, like, professors alone, professors or administration or like just leaders in the community alone. You know what I'm saying? So what would you say, like, is your push to continue to, like, even despite all the things that you could lose and everything that is on the line, what continues to allow you to move in love when you could clearly at any time always, like, not move with love,
right,
as many people in the world do?
Right. Well, I operate off of being genuine. I operate off of being transparent, and I operate on being honest. You know, if you see anything in me, it's really who I am.
Yeah.
I don't put on airs, and I don't do things just to get attention. For me, it's transparency, it's vulnerability, it's truth. Be genuine. Be a genuine person.
Yeah.
You know, and what irritates me a lot is when people put on these facades like they're really for the people, and they're really not. They're really for themselves.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself, what do you hope to get from being who you are? What's the goal? If your goal is to get applause, then you're not doing it for the love of what you're doing it for the applause.
Yeah.
You know, so when I've seen you do it a million times, hold a door open for a young sister. You don't expect her to say, thank you, Javi, for opening up the door. You don't do that. You open it up for the love of doing it, not because you want something back.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to be transparent with it. You got to be vulnerable with it. You got to be honest with it and open.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to live with for the rest of my life. If I'm known by anything, I want to be known as that person who always was just me.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what sets you apart from so many people at Clark, and so many people I just come across. Like, I truly haven't met another Dr. Bass because people don't use, like, like being genuine. I don't know if it's like common sense isn't common anymore in the world, or people just don't like, or like, what's the disconnect? But it's like, if, like, I just feel like if people in the world could find the connection to, like, being more genuine and moving with love, then, like, I think everything would just be more smooth in the world. Like, it'll give us more opportunity to be able to fight things together when we can move in love and move in geniality rather than, like, just trying to be against each other. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I got to ask you a question. I'm going to flip the script a little bit. The microphone, the script, it flipped to you. Can you love somebody if you don't love yourself? Because so many people don't love themselves.
Yeah.
And what we've heard based on research is 82% of people have generally low self-esteem. And they look for the other people to sort of guide them into what they should and shouldn't do.
Yeah.
So if I don't love myself, I can't love anybody else. Not effectively. And I've seen a lot of people who are damaged, who walk around with damage and hurt in their hearts based on past traumas, based on whatever they've experienced historically. And they're looking for something, you know? So again, I can't love you if I don't love me.
Now, I love how you just said that. I love how you just said. I love how we on topic of love. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of want to get into it a little bit.
Go.
With your experience and stuff like that, even like relationship-wise, like throughout, like life-wise. You know what I'm saying? How do you think your own personal experience has shaped your understanding of love and relationships?
Wow. Well, that's man. You asking the dope questions today. I will say this: people. Their brain changes chemically and physically every 7 minutes. Every 7 minutes, the brain changes, it shifts. What you want and what you desire at one point in your life, you have to understand and be prepared that it's going to change. So who you are aligned with, who you fall in love with, what your desires are, the boxes that you check in your 20s may not be the boxes that you check in your 30s, which may not be the boxes that you check in your 40s. And I'm 54. So I've gone through a lot of box checks.
Now 50. Now you live about 39.
No. You my son, so you're saying all this nice stuff, all this white stuff. And you know what? It's the Adidas. It's the Sambas. Here's the thing. You go through so many changes in yourself that you have to continue not only to redefine how you see yourself, but how you redefine the partner that you've chosen. So you may fall in love 3 or 4 times in your lifetime. You may. And each one of those love lessons will teach you something. You know, those love experiences are going to teach you something.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to love. There are some broken people out here, man. And I mean, you all in this generation say outside.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of craziness outside.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's safer to be inside with the right person.
Yeah.
You know, but the person who is going to speak to your spirit and speak to your soul, not just speak to your flesh. Flesh comes and goes, and beauty fades. Let's be honest. But if somebody really speaks to your heart and your soul and your mind, it's not about what you like. It's not about who likes you. It's about who respects you. And if somebody respects you and speaks to your spirit, oh man, y'all can continue to go through the different changes of boxes. But keep growing and keep learning yourself. Because what we tend to do is we seek out energy that's really just a mirror of ourselves. Whatever you attract is really just a mirror of yourself.
Now, like you really be having a great thing to say. Like you know, like you got it. Now, I know with being as knowledgeable as you are, and being a psychologist and a therapist and a professor, like all these accolades that come under your belt, like I know relationship-wise, or even like even being a therapist, I know relationship-wise, a woman or somebody might expect for you to like know everything to say, or know how to handle this, and like just expect for you to just be like the perfect partner, or just to have like the perfect relationship. Folks wouldn't know of the things that you went through relationship-wise. You know what I'm saying? So like, talk about like that, like being able to, even with all the knowledge that you have, even with all of the things that you've learned and you've given other people advice and had clients and all these different experiences, how is like, talk about the humane part of your relationships, how you like how you still have to like be human in your relationships when everything is not, like when you're in a relationship, that's not your client, that's your partner.
It's your partner.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like, how do you continue to be human in a predicament where like people wouldn't expect for you to, like people would make you inhumane?
Wow. Man, again, these questions. Okay, when I was growing up, my parents were not together. And my father married 5 times. My mother, who is lesbian, she married my father, but then after their divorce, she, finally settled down with my stepmother, and they had been in a loving relationship for a long period of time. Growing up as a kid in that time period, I was also sexually abused. So being sexually abused at an early age multiple times, and then not having the home structure, it created this person in his 20s who was looking for a certain type of love. So I made a lot of mistakes. And into my 30s and 40s, I made a lot of mistakes. Here I am, 54, and you said not to look at my partner as a client. Well, sometimes you look at yourself as a client. When some of those things start to open up and you start to have flashbacks and remember, and it's like, hold on a second, I just want somebody to hug me. I just want somebody to tell me I'm gonna be okay. Well, where does that come from? That stems from childhood trauma. So that's what I always tell people. You got to understand who you are, come to grips with what you've been exposed to, and deal with it before you get into a relationship. And I say this, and I need your audience to hear this. This is my famous line. You've heard me say it 1,000,000 times in Human Sex. If you have low self-esteem, do not get into a relationship. Because what you will do is you will traumatize somebody. You will put something on that person that they're not even ready to deal with. Do not date somebody that has low self-esteem. If they don't know who they are, do not get with them, because then what they'll do is they won't tell you what they really need from you, right? They probably will accept certain things from you that they really don't feel good about themselves in accepting. So make sure that that person knows who they are, and make sure that you know who you are. And even though I said that you're going to continue to shift and morph into who you're going to be, morph together. Some relationships are good just being friends.
Yeah.
And some relationships can go into love.
Yeah.
But don't get into it if you don't know who you are.
Yeah. Now, this whole show is about being celebrated.
Celebrated, yeah.
Being celebrated. That's the whole part of this, is us being here to celebrate you.
Yeah.
My question to you is, when you're in a relationship, how do you continuously be able to celebrate yourself? As the goal, typically, in society-wise, is for us to celebrate and do stuff for our partner when we are in relationship.
It's important to celebrate yourself. It's important to celebrate your partner. But when you find yourself celebrating your partner and your partner is celebrating themselves, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
If you're celebrating yourself and your partner is celebrating you and you're not celebrating your partner, it's a problem.
Yeah.
I think that good, healthy self-esteem, is so important.
Yeah.
The famous philosopher, Cat Williams, said something profound. And what he said was, self-esteem is about you.
Yeah.
It's about yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're getting your self-esteem met by somebody else, what is that?
That's not self-esteem.
That's not self-esteem.
Yeah.
That's partner esteem.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's another thing that I need you to pay attention to, is something called emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is, I not only understand myself, I not only understand my words and what's important to me, but I also understand the people who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And I have to understand how my words are going to impact them, how my actions are going to impact them.
Yeah.
So if I know that I'm going to hurt my partner by doing certain things, it's not really truthful, or it's not really emotionally intelligent for me to do those things.
Yeah.
So you have to be emotionally aware and emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
And pick people who are also emotionally intelligent and emotionally aware.
That's good. That's good. You see, like, people don't talk about that. What I'm saying? People don't even but that comes with unpacking the things that you went throughout your childhood and trauma and stuff like that. That's how you come with being emotional intelligent.
Absolutely.
So listen, you've had you just named all your accolades with I would say tying in with Clark Atlanta University.
Okay.
Now HBCUs like Clark Atlanta University are shaping future leaders of the world.
Yeah.
Of myself, kind of like, what I'm saying, like you see yourself for me, I'm a future out the basket.
Come on now. Come on.
So what is one lesson that you hope all of the people that whoever has ever experienced Dr. Bass, and even for the students or the people who might even be coming to Clark Atlanta after even watching this thing, what is one thing or one lesson, one piece that you will hope that people take away from experiencing you?
Love. I hope that they felt loved. Even if we don't talk a whole lot, if they can walk into a classroom setting, or if they can walk into a meeting with me, hopefully they felt loved.
Yeah.
That's the best gift that I can give anybody.
Yeah.
Just for them to feel loved.
Yeah.
Because everybody doesn't experience love every day.
Yeah.
And people, there's this song by Usher and Her.
Okay.
And
I think I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think I know.
And it's so beautiful, but one of the parts of the lyrics is, it says, and it was a part of the Color Purple soundtrack. And what it said was, in the lyric, people will give up everything for love. They'll sacrifice themselves for love. People walk through this world never experiencing the type of love that they desire. So if people can feel love from me, and I'm not necessarily saying romantic love, but if you could feel love from me, then I've done my job.
Yeah.
I can leave this earth.
Yeah.
Feeling accomplished.
Yeah.
And I got to say something to you as a person who was just baptized.
Okay.
I need you to think about the Bible like this.
Okay.
In the beginning, Genesis, right? You're born. And then you go through the Old Testament. The Old Testament was about punishment and understanding who you're supposed to be, right? When you get into the New Testament, once you get in there, you're talking about forgiveness and understanding and love. You don't understand who you truly are until you get to the end of your life, or the end of the Bible, which is Revelations.
Yeah.
And the end of your life, when you take your last breath, everything is revealed. every experience that you've ever had in your life, it all comes like that. And you truly begin to understand why you went through the things that you went through.
Yeah.
And then you start over.
Yeah. You talking, you just, okay, so listen, we're about to close down a little bit.
Closing out.
We're about to close out.
All right.
Here on the ceremony, it's this one question that that every guest got to answer.
All right.
And I got to know this because this ties to everything celebrating you and what's been past and what's to come.
Okay.
So if you had to, I'm gonna put it in this form. I'm gonna say it like this. If you had to write a book about yourself, and this season of your life was a chapter, if you had to title this season of your life into a chapter, what would it be? And if you had to title the next season, what you believe your future season would be, if you had to title that season of your life as well, what would it be?
I would call this chapter Emergence. And I say emergence because who I was last year is not who I am today.
Yeah.
And who people see me as today, they didn't see me like that yesterday. Now, I've always been Dr. Bass, and I will forever be Dr. Bass, but then when you start to shift into certain titles, people begin to change on you. Okay. People begin to treat you a little bit different. So while I am emerging as a new person to some people based on title, I call this emergence because even though I'm walking, in different things, or different titles, I'm still me. So I get to emerge with a different title, but still be myself.
Yeah.
So emergence. Yeah. And then you said, what would the next chapter be? The next chapter would be peace. Peace.
Yeah.
I think that when you get to this particular age and you've seen so many people, family members and friends and students pass away, it creates levels of concern and unease because you don't want to lose anybody. And that's why if you call me at 12 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm always going to pick up or I'm always going to text because if you're calling me that late, I'm like, okay, is Javi all right? I got to make sure he's good. But that angst is real. And when you become a parent, that angst goes up a notch. So I think that the next chapter will be peace.
Man, I thank you. Of course. I thank you. This has been a beautiful episode of the ceremony. We thank you for just being able to be in this space and just celebrate you. This season is about immersion.
Yes.
But each and every day, each and everything we're going to, we're stepping into peace. So we thank you, man. We thank you for being a part of this episode.
Thank you.
This is Dr. Christopher. This is my daddy now. This is my pops. So don't be in the comments trying to be we ain't gonna play that on the ceremony. But listen, man, catch us next Thursday. We'll be here again. I'm Javier Wilson, your host, and we thank you for coming here, man.
Absolutely.
Love you, man.
Love you too, man.
Love you.